shall we begin?
Let the games begin.
All right.
A new age has begun. An age of freedom.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Get to the chopper!
This is going to be quite the ride.
And hello, everybody, and welcome to the Movie Pit Podcast. I am your host, Christian. Thank you very much for joining me on the podcast this week. We have a lot to get to this week, so I'm just going to speed through a lot of the podcast, and I apologize because this podcast may be going out a little later than I originally want. You know, I have this idea in my head of when the podcast should come out, and it's always on Friday, and I don't want it to be a little bit more late, so than it already is. So apologies for the late podcast upload, but you will be getting still a podcast. But this is the Movie Pit Podcast. We're talking about all of the big breaking movie news items of the week. We also talk about the movie trailers that came out this week. We had quite a few of those. And we will talk about the movies that are coming out in theaters and streaming for your viewing pleasures. So let's get to the podcast this week. There was one news item that came out that I really want to talk about. There's actually two, but one got updated this week, so we'll talk about that when we get to it. But there is one movie news item that came out after the podcast came out last week that I want to talk about, and that is that the Sinister and Doctor Strange writer-director duo of C. Robert Cargill and Scott Derrickson are teaming up with Timo. I'm going to mispronounce his last name, because I always do, even though he is one of my favorite directors, one of my foreign favorite directors, Timo Tajahanto. I don't think that's how you pronounce his last name. He directed Headshot, Made the Devil Take You, the first one and its sequel, and the Netflix action film The Night Comes for Us. They're working on a secret project. The three posted a picture on their social media accounts, the front page of a script with all their names on it, and the title, which was covered, but it will be titled The, and then the next word starts with an H, and the last word starts with an R, and over the weekend, it was a mad scramble to figure out what the title was. On top of that, they had a very brief log line for the movie, which read the year is 20, and then the latter half of the year is covered with a snake emoji. Society is screwed. Crime and violence have risen steadily in all the remaining regions of planet Earth. Most of Asia has been unified. That is the log line for the movie. That is all we know about the project. There's no word on anything else, production dates, casting, release date, or anything like that, or who is directing. Timo could direct himself. Derrickson could end up directing it himself, or maybe Cargill's finally going to step behind the camera and direct something, although he doesn't. I don't think he wants to do that, but this is great. Derrickson, obviously a horror director, obviously, stepped out of his comfort zone with Doctor Strange. Timo has done action movies. He's done horror movies. He's done psychological thrillers. So whatever this project is, I'm really excited for it. And all three of them together, that's really, really cool. So I'm looking forward to that. All right. So that was just the movie news item that came out after last week when the podcast went up. Let's move on to this week's movie news items. There was a lot of trailers this week. I'm not going to talk about all of them. Just because I specifically want to get to the news. Of course, the biggest movie news item of the week that I think maybe most of you will know if you've been paying attention to the movie news. But there was a lot of trailers that came out this week. So there was a short 1-minute teaser for Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. It's pretty much what we've seen before, with the exception of a humorous beat at the beginning of the movie that shows the lead actor without a shirt, and Awkwafina's character saying, "What happened to your shirt?" So there's that. But everything else in the teaser we pretty much have seen before. From the looks of it, it looks like we've seen everything before. So that came out. There was a teaser for Army of Thieves, which is a prequel to Army of the Dead, and that brings back Matthias. I'm going to mispronounce his last name as well. Shurgweifers, and that's not how you say it. That is not even close to how you say his last name. But he played the safecracker in Army of the Dead. So this movie will follow his character being recruited by a group of thieves who are taking advantage of the world's current state of course, fighting the zombie outbreak that happened. So he's going to be in there. He actually also directs the movie, the actor, so that's pretty cool. Army of Thieves doesn't have a release date, but it does have a release. It will come out, I should say. Mixing up my words. It will come out later this year in the fall. So there's no exact release date just yet, but it will come out later this year. So it was that. There was also a new trailer for A24's newest psychological horror film called Lamb, which stars Noomi Rapace. We had a very brief teaser that came out, I want to say last month, and it follows a childless couple who discover a strange-looking child in their barn, which if you see the trailer, it is a cross, from the looks of it, to be a human and a sheep. Obviously, the title called Lamb. And it's weird. It's a weird trailer. It is, and it's even weirder when they have the Beach Boys song "God Only Knows" playing in the background. It's very weird. But yeah, go check that out if you want to. Speaking of weird trailers, there was a stop motion film by animation legend Phil Tippett, who has done a lot of stuff for the Star Wars franchise. His company is actually in charge of the special effects for The Mandalorian, so he's still attached to the Star Wars franchise to this day. The movie is 30 years in the making because he started working on this after he did work for RoboCop 2, and then he had to stop because he got offered to create the dinosaur effects for Jurassic Park. So once he was done with that, he kept getting other projects and worked on it here and there, and he finally went back to it in 2010 after creating a Kickstarter, and then finished the movie, which is called Mad God. I didn't say the name of the movie. It's called Mad God, and he finished it last year during the pandemic. So, yeah. The teaser itself is kind of out there. It's kind of trippy and wild and gnarly. I've never used gnarly in my life, but I feel like that's appropriate to put to this trailer. The film will premiere at the Lorcano Film Festival, which is next week, 'cause it's already August. It's going to be August soon. That's crazy to me. But it will premiere next week at that film festival. There's no theater release date or VOD release date just yet, but I'm assuming someone will pick it up at one of the film festivals for sure. There was a new trailer for the first trailer, I should say, for Flag Day. This is a movie that is directed by Sean Penn. It's a family drama. He's also starring in the film. It's based on a real story, a true story, and a memoir by Jennifer Vogel. The film follows a relationship between Jennifer and her father, John Vogel, the most notorious counterfeiter in U.S. history. Penn will play John Vogel, while his daughter, Dylan Penn, will play his on-screen daughter, Jennifer. The movie will also co-star Penn's son, Hopperjack Penn, and Dylan's brother will also appear, along with Catherine Winnick and Josh Brolin. That will come out on August 20th. Not what I expected from Flag Day. I didn't even know that was happening, so there was that. There was a new trailer for David Buckner's The Night House. This David Buckner, by the way, directed Netflix's The Ritual. If anyone saw that, or anyone familiar with that, or remembers watching that, this new psychological horror thriller will have Rebecca Hall playing Beth, a grieving widow who is alone at the lakeside home that her husband built for her before he passed away. And of course, creepy stuff starts happening, because it always does. So this the teaser itself kind of starts off like kind of an extended scene, and then it goes into everything else. Very different from the trailer that we saw. This one's a lot shorter than the trailer. The trailer was a full-length trailer. It was like 2.5 minutes. This one's like right under a minute or so, or right over a minute, I should say. But yeah, it's creepy. it's sure is creepy. So yeah, that comes out on August 20th. Well, of course, we'll talk more about that once it comes out. There was a trailer for The Gateway, which stars Shane Wingham. You know who he is because you've seen him and stuff. He's been in the Fast and the Furious franchise. He was in the first season of Peggy Carter. He was in Kong Skull Island. He plays the soldier who I want to say is the second in command to Samuel L. Jackson's character. He's kind of like the older guy, very skinny. You know him when you see him. But he plays a social worker in this movie. He gets caught up in a gang wars crossfire while trying to protect his clients. A mother played by Olivia Munn and her daughter after the child's father gets out of prison and decides to steal accidentally from the cartel. Frank Grillo also stars in the movie, as does Tara Manning and Bruce Stern. Bruce Stern looks like he's playing maybe the father, or at least like a mentor or something like that. But this movie will premiere in select theaters on Apple TV and VOD on September 3rd. Looks pretty good. I like Shea Wingham. It looks like he's finally getting a lead actor credit, which is pretty cool. I've always seen him as pop up as a supporting actor and like a one scene role, so it's nice to see him kind of get the the lead in this one. The next trailer is Sony Pictures Animation and Netflix's film Vivo, which will follow a one-of-a-kind rainforest honey bear. They say they haven't word for it, but I'm done trying to pronounce stuff I don't know how to pronounce. And it doesn't look like Honey Bear. It looks like a monkey, but whatever. It's voiced by Lin-Manuel Miranda, who spends his days playing music to crowds with his owner and Andres. However, Vivo is sent on an adventure to search for Andres' lost love, Martha, voiced by Gloria Estefan in the movie. But Vivo also gets help from a young girl named Gabby along the way. The voice cast includes Zoe Saldana, Brian Tyree Henry, Nicole Byer, and Michael Rooker, and that will start streaming on Netflix on August 6th. It looks interesting. It looks like they switch up the animation every now and then, which it kind of threw me off at first, but when I realized what they were doing in the trailer and probably what they'll do in the movie, it kind of makes sense. But it's very bright and colorful, if anything, so there's that. There was also the first trailer for King Richard. It is inspired by Richard Williams, the father of the Williams sisters, Serena and Venus, who will actually be executive producers on the movie. Will Smith will play Richard Williams with the young actresses of Shania Sidney playing Venus and Demi Singleton playing Serena. John Bernthal, Tony Goodwin, and Dylan McDermott also co-star in the film as well. King Richard will be in theaters and HBO Max on November 19th. I didn't really know or what to expect from watching the King Richard trailer. I had heard a lot about it, and I knew it was happening, and I saw like photos and stuff like that. But watching the actual trailer, it's very interesting. Even though the movie is supposed to be about him, that's kind of hard to not. It's kind of hard to imagine them not the sisters. I'm talking about being they not being a pivotal role in the movie, because obviously we know about their careers and we know, we kind of know their story. But now we're finding out more about the father, which admittedly I don't know anything about. The father. I don't know anything about their father. I don't know anything about Richard Williams. So, but Will Smith is there, and it looks like he's gonna give a powerhouse performance. So, more all right. There was also the trailer for the card counter. I don't know why I said cow. The card counter. That is a new movie by Focus Features. It is a revenge thriller, which is directed by Paul Schrader, who directed American Gigolo and First Reformed. It stars Oscar Isaac as William Tell, a card counter, obviously, who lives anonymously as possible as he travels from casino to casino. He is drawn into a plot by Ty Sheridan's character, Ty Sheridan from the X-Men movie, the new X-Men movies, he plays Cyclops, to exact revenge on a military colonel played by William Dafoe, who had wronged both men. Tell hopes to redeem himself and Ty Sheridan's character, but escaping his past proves impossible, especially after a mysterious financial broker, played by Tiffany Haddish, stakes Tell for a World Series of Poker tournament. This is very interesting because the trailer kind of it bounces from like, okay, this can be like this like an interesting character study kind of movie, and then Sheridan's characters gets introduced in the trailer, and Willem Dafoe's character. It looks like maybe they were military. They were both in the military, and something, Dafoe's character may have ordered them to do something that they didn't want to do. So I don't know. The trailer kind of bounced around. It has it's very stylish, the trailer itself, but it's very interesting that the story they're telling with the trailer they're showing, it kind of just it mixes and matches, and it just, I don't know, it's a kind of it bounces back and forth tone wise, but it's very stylish, and I'm looking forward to it. Anything with Oscar Isaac is great, because I think he's one of my favorite people out there. Martin Scorsese is an executive producer on the movie, which has a connection because he actually directed Schrader's four scripts in the past. Schrader has wrote Bringing Out the Dead, The Last Temptation of Christ, Raging Bull, and Taxi Driver, and of course Martin Scorsese directed all those movies. So the card counter will open on September 10th, so give that a watch. There was also the trailer for House of Gucci, the first trailer for Ridley Scott's new crime drama, which stars Adam Driver as the man himself, Gucci, Lady Gaga as his wife, who hired someone to kill her husband. And if you're just figuring it out for the first time, you gotta know what's going on. That is, it's a story. It's quite a story. If you don't know anything about the story, but it is quite a story. And they try their best not to play it too much in the trailer, but yeah, we know. The film co-stars Jared Leto, what looks like it looks like he's in a fat suit. I'm pretty sure he's in a fat suit, and I didn't even notice it was Jared Leto. I forgot he was in this movie, and then they said, the Jared Leto title card pops up, and they show his character afterward. I'm like, oh my god, that is Jared Leto. So Jared Leto in fat suit. Al Pacino also co-stars. So does Salma Hayek. This movie will open on November 24th, right around award season. So we can probably expect to hear a lot about this for House of Gucci. I don't know. I couldn't get over Jared Leto in the fat suit, to be quite honest with you. So there's that. And finally, the last trailer we're going to talk about is the new trailer for the Ghostbusters movie, Ghostbusters Afterlife. Finally, after all its delays, will finally come out. Jason Reitman, the director of Up in the Air, Tully, and Juno, the son of the original director, Ivan Reitman. He co-writes this and directs a sequel, which is a sequel to the original films. It is not a reboot. It is not a remake. It is a sequel to the first two movies, and follows a mother played by Carrie Coon with her two kids played by McKenna Grace and Finn Wolfhard, who moved to Oklahoma, where the kids discover their grandfather's past as the original member of the Ghostbusters team. The movie will co-star Paul Rudd, Tracy Letts, and original cast members Bill Murray, Dan Aykroyd, Ernie Hudson, Annie Potts, and Sigourney Weaver will all star. We actually see Annie Potts in the movie. Looks like she kind of hands over the keys to Carrie Coon's character, who is the daughter of Egon. And the trailer is very good. It has a lot of heart. There's a lot of nostalgia in there. They show a lot of stuff from stuff that we know, like I have the car. I know it has a name, and I had it in my tip of my tongue, and I just forgot what it was. And I know all of you are yelling at me, and I apologize. But there's just a lot of other stuff in there. It looks great. I mean, it's very different from the first trailer that we got, a year ago, 2 years ago now? Wow, it seems like so long ago. I mean, I'm looking forward to it. I'm not overly excited for it, but I am looking forward to it. I think this definitely made me a little bit more excited for the movie than the other trailer. Maybe it's because I just want to watch movies in theaters again. I don't know. But Ghostbusters Afterlife will come out on November 11th, given that, the Delta variant doesn't, mess everything up. But yeah, there you go. Those are all the trailers. Those will all be linked down below in the description / show notes area. Let us move on to the movie news items. All right, so the first bit of movie news we have here is, like I mentioned before we started talking about the trailers, there was 2 movie news items that came out after the podcast went up last week. One of them got updated this week, and that is the first movie news item we're going to talk about. And then as a while back ago, news broke out that a reboot or reimagining or remake or whatever wording they wanted to use, they wanted to use in front of this, of The Exorcist was happening. And it was rather quiet on that front until this weekend, when it was announced that David Gordon Green, the man behind the new Halloween movies, told Total Film Magazine that the movie was not a reboot or a remake, but it is a direct sequel to the first movie. On top of that, he told the outlet that just because it was a direct sequel to the classic first movie, it didn't necessarily mean that everything that happened in the sequels wouldn't be erased or mentioned, although he didn't say that it would also be canon or anything like that. So we just got to take that for what he says. But this is the first time, of course, a series has made direct sequels. The short-lived Fox TV series picked up after the events of the first movie and was set in that world. Of course, the last Exorcist movie we got was back in 2005 with the Minions, the prequel to The Exorcist, which itself was an alternate version of the 2004 movie Exorcist: The Beginning, because of different director's cuts and stuff like that. So there you go. That was the original news item that came out last week. Then Monday rolled around and gave us more news, some big news. It was reported that Leslie Odom Jr. from Hamilton and One Night in Miami and one of the original film stars in Ellen Burstyn have joined the movie. Plus, the movie will be part of a planned trilogy. It will be released on October 13th, 2023, and will be released both in theaters and on the streaming service of Peacock. Gordon Green, it looks like, will only direct the first movie, at least for now, because they could change their minds in the future. In terms of writing, Scott Teems, who was one of the writers on Halloween Kills, Danny McBride, and David Gordon Green will team up for the story, for it to be written by, officially, by Gordon Green and Peter Statler, which I believe is a new writer. He's probably someone that works for one of the companies, and they want to bring him in on this. But regardless of that, Odom Jr. will play a father of a possessed child and desperate for help, and he tracks down Bernstein's character, who was the mother, of course, of Linda Blair's Reagan from the first movie. Apparently, Universal and Peacock made a $400 million deal with Morgan Creek Productions, which held the rights for the Exorcist property, and they're the ones that are going to be putting the movie together. This is pretty big. Obviously, David Gordon Green has experience with directing direct sequels to original movies that came out years ago. So he's going to do it again with The Exorcist. I'm more excited for the project now. I really did think they were going to reboot it or reimagine it. And then the Friday news was like, okay, they're not going to reboot it. It's a direct sequel. Awesome. Cool. And now this. Not just a direct sequel, but they're also bringing back one of the major stars, which I think is really, really cool. I don't know what they're going to do, but I'm excited nonetheless. Well, let's stick with horror here for a little bit. During an interview with Collider, producers John Davis and John Fox had given some details on the new secretly filming Predator movie, which is directed by Dan Trachtenberg, who's the director of 10 Cloverfield Lane. I don't know why I had trouble saying that. 10 Cloverfield Lane. For starters, the movie will be titled Skull and will be an origin story about the Predator's first journey to Earth. The movie will have a female hero, and Fox said that the movie will be more, quote, akin to The Revenant than it does to any other film in the Predator canon, end quote. When it comes to the time period, all they said was that it was early. We gonna see a caveman time Predator movie? I don't know what they meant by that, but that seems kind of rather interesting. Both praised Trachtenberg's vision along with the script by Patrick Ainson. He did some TV series. He wrote some episodes for some TV series like Kingdom, Treadstone, and the Amazon Prime Video series Jack Ryan. They did admit that the movie was, at the time when they did this interview, 3/4 of the way through production, and they haven't ruled out a rating for the movie yet. They don't know if it's gonna be rated R or if it's gonna be rated PG-13. But Predator movie, I don't know. They also admitted that they started working on this when the last Predator movie was in production, and they wanted to just work on this while that one was going through, not because they thought that was gonna fail, but just because they just wanted something else. They just wanted, another Predator movie in the works that maybe wasn't connected to the other movies or wasn't connected to that movie at all. So, it is what it is, but I'm excited for this. Dan Trachtenberg, 10 Cloverfield Lane, he did an amazing job on that. If he does anything similar to what he did with 10 Cloverfield Lane with the Predator movie, I think we're in for probably the first good Predator movie in quite a while, at least in my opinion. So, yeah. Moving on, J.K. Simmons is in negotiations to reprise his role as Commissioner James Gordon in the HBO film movie Batgirl. Of course, Simmons played the character in Justice League, but him returning for Batgirl would be really cool because it would be, some continuity there, and him having done all that work just for a one-off appearance didn't seem right. Leslie Grace from In the Heights nabbed the role of Barbara Gordon, aka Batgirl, last week. We talked about that. Although no plot details are still known, they're still being kept secret. The movie will be written by Christina Hodson, who did work on Birds of Prey and also wrote the Bumblebee sequel, and will be directed by Bad Boys for Life directors Aldia El Arbi and Biala Fala, with production aiming to start soon, apparently, at least according to the report that I read. One of the reports I read for J.K. Simmons said they wanted to start production soon, even possibly sometime this year, maybe even for a movie release next year. I don't know if that's the case. If that's what they're going to do, then that's a very quick turnaround, and we're going to probably expect a lot more casting updates from Batgirl in the future. So get ready for that, I guess. Oh, we'll see. Disney, which is again, these last two movie news items are both connected to Disney. One is more bigger than the other one. Disney's Jungle Cruise is out this week, but the studio is moving things ahead on their other movie based on a theme park ride in the Haunted Mansion. We already know that Justin Simien, who directed Bad Hair, which is on Hulu, and Dear White People, the movie and the TV series, is set to direct the movie with Katie Diploid, who did some work on the TV series Parks and Rec, and wrote the movie The Heat, the one with Sandra Bullock and Melissa McCarthy, writing the recent version of the script. Now, there are two people being lined up to star in the movie, and that is Tiffany Haddish and Lakeith Stanfield. Although unconfirmed, some outlets are saying that Stanfield will play a widower who once believed in the supernatural but is now a rather lifeless tour guide in New Orleans' French Quarter, while Haddish will play a psychic hired to commune with the dead. Other than that, no new details are known about the movie, other than, of course, it will be based on the theme ride, and someone will be moving into the, of course, titled Haunted Mansion. Disney already did a Haunted Mansion movie back in 2003, if you guys remember, with Eddie Murphy, although the movie did not get a lot of love from people or from the box office, so that's why I never continued with that. But this is pretty cool that they want to do this. I don't know how they're going to approach a Haunted Mansion movie, but I think this is a good start. I mean, not too bad. Lakeith Stanfield, I know people are divided on Tiffany Haddish, but I think depending on what they give her, she knocks it out of the park. So there is that. All right, so let's get to the big movie news item of the week, because it is ridiculous. And right before I started recording, to give you guys a little hint on what goes on, I usually record the podcast on Thursdays, at least most of what I can record. And then, whatever pops up Friday mornings or early Friday afternoons, then I'll do that. I didn't do that this week. I waited to record the whole podcast on a Friday, which is why it's going to go up late. But I wanted to see if there was an update to this movie news, to this item, and there was, just not the movie news item, just not the update that I thought it was going to happen. So, Scarlett Johansson has reportedly filed a lawsuit against the Walt Disney Company, according to the Wall Street Journal. The suit alleges there's a whole lot that goes behind this. I'm just going to give you guys like the major details on it. If you want to read the whole story, obviously go check out the Wall Street Journal. They have a breakdown of everything. I'm just going to give you guys the highlights. So the suit alleges that Disney entered a breach of contract by releasing Black Widow in both theaters and on Disney+. The suit goes on to say that her contract with Marvel guaranteed an exclusive theater release for Black Widow, with her salary conditional on the film's box office performance, meaning that she would get more money based off how much the box office made. Some of the wording from the suit said this, saying, quote, Disney intentionally induced Marvel's breach of the agreement without justification in order to prevent Ms. Johansson from realizing the full benefit of her bargain with Marvel. End quote. That's just one of the quotes they use. That's just one of them. Apparently, Johansson and her team did reach out to Disney about pre-pandemic concerns, and an email from March 2019 by Marvel Chief Counsel Dave Galizio, I don't know if that's how I pronounce his last name, said that the release plan for Black Widow would adhere to the traditional theater model, and even said that if plans changed, they would need to meet and discuss things. It's not the exact wording of the email, but that's pretty much the gist of what it was. So Johansson and her team did reach out, before when the pandemic was going on, before the pandemic happened, because they didn't know what was going to go, what was going to happen and everything like that. And probably the most damning thing in the suit is that it alleges that Johansson's representatives attempted to renegotiate her contract after Black Widow's release plan changed to include Disney+, but Disney and Marvel never responded back, mostly Disney. So they reached out to Disney and they were like, let's change some stuff and let's change the wording of the contract. Didn't happen. The suit continues to go on to allege that Disney may have made the move for the hybrid release, or the day and date release, as they like to call it. I just say hybrid because it's just easier for me to say, because I don't, mix it up every now and then. Release that they, what was I saying? The hybrid release, so they wouldn't have to pay Johansson and to continue to build Disney Plus as a platform for all those new subscribers. Ooh. If you've been paying attention to the box office, Black Widow premiered to a whopping $80 plus million at the box office, which is the biggest weekend of any theater release in more than a year because, of course, of pandemic. But the movie then suffered a massive decline in its second weekend, dropping apparently 67%, which is a massive drop for any movie, let alone a Marvel movie. Something that theater owners were apparently upset about. I don't know why they were upset about it. It's not like, Marvel has any control of that. Maybe it was because, the movie was also available on Disney Plus. Although theater owners knew that it was going to come out on Disney Plus. So I think, you guys should have expected a drop. Yes, that is a massive drop. You should have expected a drop nonetheless. So that was the original story. That came out like during the day. And then at night, I think it was the same day that it came out, a Disney spokesperson then responded to the whole thing by saying this. And this is where everything just went down in flames for Disney, saying, quote, "There is no merit whatsoever to this filing. The lawsuit is especially sad and distressing in its callous disregard for the horrific and prolonged global effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. Disney has fully complied with Ms. Johansson's contract, and furthermore, the release of Black Widow on Disney Plus with the premiere access has significantly enhanced her ability to earn the additional compensation on top of the $20 million she received to date." End quote. So when that was released, a lot of people were like, it just pains me to say this. Okay, so the whole thing is messy. All right, just the whole thing is messy as hell. All right, and I think before Disney's statement, which again kind of alludes that Disney is saying that Johansson is taking advantage of the pandemic to sue them, which wow, but people were probably siding with Disney, but after that statement came out, it was just a whole hell of a lot of no, you are not in the right here. And now there are reports today, on Friday, that Emma Stone and maybe even Emily Blunt are considering taking a similar route on possibly suing Disney. Stone, of course, was the star of Cruella, which for a while Cruella was just going to get a theater release, and then they decided to change it up and we're going to make it a theater and Disney Plus release. Same thing happened with Jungle Cruise. Although early reports suggested that Blunt and Dwayne Johnson, who was also the star in that movie and also producer on that movie, wouldn't take issue with the Jungle Cruise hybrid release. So I don't know, maybe something changed. Look, again, the whole thing is messy. It just seems like Disney didn't take the right measures and renegotiated the contract with their stars for their movies to come out in theaters and on Disney Plus. Yes, there is a pandemic going on, and all moviegoers are people that go to the movies a lot or on a frequent basis, like myself, and maybe even you listening to this podcast, aren't going to movie theaters every weekend like we used to because of COVID. And sorry, I got a little too close to the mic there. And no, I don't believe that these actresses, especially Johansson, are trying to take advantage of the pandemic to get paid more money, because honestly, that excuse is stupid. And if it's in their contracts that you're going to get a theater release, then they are promised a theater release for their movie, mainly because probably they're going to get, some movie from the box office. And you, as the biggest company and movie studio in the world, know that a full theater release, a only theater release, isn't either possible or won't work to make the most money for you greedy you Disney executives out there, wanted or like, and you see that there is a pandemic going on, and they reach out to you, and you being the studio, Disney, don't work out a new deal for them, then you Disney are at fault here. I don't know, it's not that hard. They reached out to you before the pandemic started, and you're like, nah, it's fine. Don't worry about it. It's gonna get a theater release. Don't worry about it. We're fine. Just push it back. Just keep pushing it back. You kept pushing back movies, and now you don't want to do that. It's like, yes, there's a pandemic going on. Yes, we are starved for content. Yes, we want more stuff of the things we like because we want to get through this. But at the same time, you can just easily renegotiate something. I know it's probably hard, but if the representative for them and your representative are already talking, then, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't know all this legal jargon and all the legal things that go into it. But if they're reaching out to you and they'll reach back out to you and be like, no, we can discuss this later, then I think, then both sides are like, yeah, we can work something out. But no, you decided not to. We don't know all the details on all this, but judging from what we do know, and of course, if anything, pops up, in between, now and when this podcast goes out, and, whenever we get an update to the story, it's going to be big. It's going to be massive. This is a very, like I mentioned, messy ordeal. And I don't know how this will pan out. On one hand, you have the people who are siding with Johansson, and just looking at the story and how everything's laid out with the contract. And if it wasn't in her contract that you can get a full theater release, an only theater release, and you get money based off that theater release, then that's what I don't even think the massive drop off is the thing that's bothering her. I think it's the thing that's the contract itself that says I was promised a theater release, and I don't know, maybe she wants a cut of the Disney Plus Premiere Access stuff, which, I mean, if it's in her contract, then I get it, but I don't know. It again, and I think Disney shot themselves in the foot when they released that statement, saying like, "Oh, she's taking advantage." It kind of reads like, "Oh, like she's just taking advantage of the pandemic." Of course, people aren't going out to the movie theaters. That's why the movie's not making as much money at the box office. No, it's a contract thing. I don't know. It's a whole messy ordeal. I don't know what's gonna happen here. Any probable surprise cameo by Johansson in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is probably gone. It's probably out the window now. I don't think she's coming back. But yeah, this is gonna be interesting, guys. I don't know what's gonna happen, but yeah. What do you guys think about this? This is interesting. This is a very big story that I think. I don't think it's going to get any uglier. I hope it doesn't get any uglier, but we'll see. I thought I was going to talk more about that, but I think I got my point across. But so, yeah, let's move on. That's all the movie news items at the time of this recording. Let's move on to this week's movies that are coming out in theaters and streaming for your viewing pleasures.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
So the first movie coming out in theaters is Stillwater. Matt Damon plays a father who travels from Oklahoma to France to help his estranged daughter, played by Abigail Breslin, who is in prison for a murder she claims she didn't commit. This movie is directed by Tom McCarthy, who directed Spotlight. I've heard about it for a while, and the trailers itself seem rather interesting. I don't know. It's not something that I thought Matt Damon would appear in, but he's there, and I love Matt Damon. I do like him as an actor, so I don't know. Well, I don't know how this will turn out, but it looks rather interesting. Hopefully it's good. I haven't really caught up on any of the buzz on Stillwater, to be perfectly honest with you, but there you go. The next movie also coming out exclusively in theaters is The Green Knight. It is a fantasy retelling of the medieval story of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. This is directed by David Lowery, who directed Pete's Dragon, A Ghost Story, and The Old Man and the Gun. This stars Dave Patel, Alicia Vikander, Joel Edgerton, Sean Harris, and Ralph Ineson. I think that's how you pronounce his last name. He was the father in The Witch. He has that very deep, raspy voice. He's actually voicing and playing the Green Knight. I've been looking forward to this. This was one of my most anticipated movies of the year, and I'm hoping that I can probably find a time in the day where there's no one in the movie theater so I can watch this, because I want to watch this on the biggest screen possible. Yeah, it looks amazing. It looks amazing. The early buzz for it is that it is very, very good. So I'm looking very, very forward toward watching this. And again, this has been one of my most anticipated movies of the year since last year, when it was, supposed to come out, and then the pandemic happened, didn't come out. But hopefully I can watch this soon, because I really want to watch it, and it looks really, really good. So, and finally, this is a movie that you can watch in theaters and on Disney Plus for the premiere access. It's Jungle Cruise, starring Emily Blunt and Dwayne Johnson. Of course, based off the Disneyland theme park ride, where a small riverboat captain takes a group of travelers through the jungle filled with dangerous animals and reptiles, but with supernatural elements. The movie is directed by Hamid Kalatsera, who directed a lot of the Liam Neeson movies, like Unknown and Run All Night and The Commuter. The movie also co-stars Jake Whitehall, Jesse Plemons, Edgar Ramirez, and Paul Giamatti. This is pretty good. I didn't really know what to expect from a Jungle Cruise movie, and then I kept seeing all the trailers and stuff, and it just kept getting better and better. And I think Johnson and Blunt look great together. They look like they have great screen chemistry, and it looks like they got along on set, at least from all the production, all the press tour stuff that's been coming out. So I'm looking forward to it. I really am. I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it from home, and hopefully Emily Blunt doesn't get mad with me. Yeah, those are your movies coming out in streaming. If I miss something, obviously I apologize for that, but it's kind of hard to know what's streaming at the same time with everything going on. But those are your movies coming out in theaters and streaming: Jungle Cruise, The Green Knight, and Stillwater. Hopefully you guys watch one of those. I know I'll be watching one of these for sure. I'll be watching Jungle Cruise this weekend. But yeah, that's all I got for you guys. Thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. I apologize once again for the late podcast. But and speeding through it, I just wanted to get all the news out and get the podcast out as fast as possible. So thank you guys so much for listening to the podcast this week. I very much appreciate it. As always, you can listen anywhere that you want. Hopefully you're listening on one of your favorite platforms, whether that be YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify. You can follow the podcast on social media accounts down below on Instagram and Twitter. I'm using the Twitter a little bit more. I still got to work on the Instagram, but I am using the Twitter a little bit more. And yeah, anything else also down there, the trailers and stuff like that. So yeah. Thank you guys so much for listening. Hopefully you guys have a great and fun and safe weekend, and I will see all of you hopefully next week. Well, you'll hear my voice next week. You won't see me next week. But yeah, thank you guys so much for tuning in and listening. I appreciate it, and I will see all of you guys next week. Enjoy your weekend, and as always, be good people and go watch some movies.
Whoop whoop! Yeah! Give it up! Movies!